Hi, good afternoon. I just taking a rest day today. I've been messing around with some kind of bug, as I said earlier, and I feel better, but I'm just sleeping and praying and worshiping and listening. And I woke up and I was going to head out, and then I thought the better of it. I thought I'd come down and just felt to sit with the Lord. And He started giving me something this morning. And I'm not really sure where he's headed, so we'll just let him go with it and see. But this morning after I left the park, I was walking home and the Lord said, cultivate peace. So this morning's video was cultivating gentleness, and this is about cultivating peace. And I looked up the word cultivate, and cultivate means to plant, to sow, and to work the soil. So when we talk about cultivating gentleness, for me at least, it means I pray and ask the Lord to help me to plant those seeds within my own life, within my own heart. And I want to be gentle and I want to be soft, even though we can be strong, because out of weaknesses we're made strong, and through trials and adversity we are. But we're also called to be like Christ, and Christ is gentle and soft, even though he's the strongest. And so I was walking home, and in this season, it looks like God is pulling me aside, shutting down things. I think preparing me for things he's beginning anew now and things coming in the future, just closing doors and giving me time and space. And I'm not going to say he made me sick, but I think he slowed me down a little bit because he knows how much energy I have. And so if he can use something like that for this, that's great. So I don't know where it came from all of a sudden, but I'm good just to be able to be with him. But it does make it a little uncomfortable too. I have been created with high energy, and I just love to be moving and working and doing things. And part of that, though, I will be honest, is it comes from being driven from things underneath my soil, the soil of my life and my heart, that have moved me in that direction. Sometimes it can be fear, it can be anxiety, it can be not wanting to look at things that if I'm still enough, I might have to. And some uncertainties, things I don't know. There's a variety of reasons why we all do what we do. Oftentimes, okay, the Lord is just bringing this back right now. My kid's stepdad, he passed away, I guess about 12 years ago, maybe a little more. And he was very easygoing in a lot of ways, and laughed easy in a lot of ways. And we had a conversation one day because I was in a hospitality restaurant, and when I was working, I just loved to be moving and moving and moving, except when I was in school, when we were together. I had taken some time to learn something new. But our lives were vastly different. We were a real contrast. I would be busy and go, 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 and he was able to just be laid back and just kind of do whatever. So we talked about it one day, and I said to him, and I asked him this question. I said, sometimes it's like being a boat on the water, and I told him I saw him as enjoying life, being on this nice boat on top of the water, just going right along, and the sun's shining and the clouds are out. I said, but I don't see you wrestle as much. And it doesn't mean he didn't. I just made that observation, like he just kept going over the surface of the water. And for me, my being the opposite, I have to watch I don't get stuck and think about things on a deep level too much. So we were kind of opposite in that. But there is a happy medium, because here's what the Lord is saying in all this. We can live lives where we just get up on automatic every day, and humans are creatures of routine, and where we can just be on automatic, get up, make breakfast, do whatever our normal daily routine is, go to work, go to the store, come home. We don't even really think much. I mean, we think about things, but our lives are just very routine and very automatic, and we get in ruts, we get in grooves. It's kind of like walking out of our door every day. If you have a sidewalk, you stay on the sidewalk, or you might wear a path in the grass if you don't have a sidewalk, because you're constantly going over that plot of ground. And it's the same way in our lives. A lot of times we just live on automatic, and we think about things, but we don't think about the weightier matters, the Lord is saying, the weightier matters of life. So we can just live life on the surface. And we can just skim across life and shove things under the water, so to speak, under the rug, under the table, and not look at them, in the closet, whatever analogy you want to use, and just keep moving. And that's not a healthy way to live, because a lot of things, everything that happens in our lives is going to come back at some point to affect our spirits, our mental health, our emotional health. It's just going to affect our lives one way or another. It's going to come. And I can attest to that, because being a kid and growing up with a lot of things I did, and I can remember, and some of it is just can be whatever other reasons, but by the time I got to be a teenager, I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear, and I lived with that for a lot of years. And back then they didn't do a lot with medication, at least the family of origin that I came from, because it was not looked at in a positive light back then, mental health issues and medicine. It was looked at as a weakness, and nobody wanted to be known for that. But, I'm different, so I just kind of have to be different. And I struggled with stuff, and I went to get some help. And eventually, I was on medicine for a little while just to help quiet me down a little bit. And then the Lord healed whatever that was and took it. But it was for a lot of years. And I realized that growing up, and spending a good part of my life, I knew how I felt on the inside, but keeping it in there and not being able to have a safe place to really be able to open myself up. And it just comes out, like I said. So it's much better when we learn to be able to process our thoughts, feelings, and emotions in a safe space with God, in a journal, with trusted friends, family, relatives, a counselor, wherever our safe people are that we feel that we can be ourselves with. And if we don't have that presently, you can always pray and ask the Lord to provide a place, and He will in time when you ask. Trust me, He's done that for me. And even when I can't afford a counselor, He's always made a way at some point in time. And I like to journal a lot, because it helps me to get things on paper, hard things that I need to look at, and sometimes things that I don't understand. And I'll put them down and begin to pray about it, and the Lord will just start revealing things. So it's just a healthy way. And it's good to live life on a deeper level. We don't have to do that with everything in every moment of our lives, because then I tell you, you can kind of drown in all that stuff. It's not good to ruminate over everything or to consider, ponder everything. But the things that are important, the things that are going to affect our relationship with God, our relationship with others, and that relationship we have with ourselves, things that are the weightier matters of life, things that are important and that will reap a harvest somewhere along the line. Those things are important, and things we need to look at. Sometimes we may need to get help if it's a relational thing and we can't figure it out between us. I know there's times when I was married that my husband and I went to counseling because we just hit an impasse, and there was things that we needed to look at in our own selves from our own families of origin, and then what the blockages were in our own lives. But anyway, the Lord said cultivate peace. And so in a way that we cultivate peace, it's good to be working in the garden of our own lives to make sure that we pull out these weeds that I just spoke of, and to be able to continue to sow peace and to water it and to tend it so that we have it. And the Lord, when I sat down, He said this to me. He said, finding peace in the present moment you are in. Yeah. And that's a big one for me because, like I said, I'm used to going 100 miles an hour or Mach 4 with my hair on fire sometimes. So for the Lord to shut down everything and just slow me down and sit me down pretty much, I love this time that I get to spend with him, but I also get antsy and itchy. And, that's kind of a directive to me, to be able to find peace in this moment, in this season that I am in. And also, I know it's the same for a lot of you. It's hard. We talked about wild horses, and how they're always running to a vision or running to something. And at the same time, they're not entirely free because they're running from something that drives them, an instinct, something that scares them. So, that's kind of like we are as people too. We run as children of God for the vision that God puts in our hearts. And oftentimes we may not realize we're running from something that the Lord wants us to look at with him. Something that we need deliverance from and healing in ourselves for. So he gave me this verse when I was praying, Isaiah 26:3. You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. And I had to look up the word stayed, and I thought it was funny because the whole verse is a present tense. And when I looked up the word stayed, or said the word stayed is past tense. So it made me dig a little bit deeper. And I actually cheated because I'll tell you this. I pray a lot about things, and God gives me things from his word, and I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll look up things on Google because I want to understand the deeper meaning, and I might look up something in Hebrew or Greek or whatever. But I have this AI, and before everybody freaks out, it's how we use it. And I went to Copilot because sometimes I don't get the answer that to me is sufficient enough. So I went to Copilot and I asked Copilot, and God just put this right in me because I don't know where it came from. I asked Copilot, I said, how is Isaiah 26:3 like a footbridge? It just came in my spirit. So I'm going to put my professor glasses on here so I can see a little clearer, but these are my cheaters. But it says Isaiah 26:3 is like a footbridge in the sense that it represents a secure and stable path over troubled waters. A footbridge provides safe passage over a ravine or river, keeps our minds stayed and steadfast on God. It offers us a way to navigate life's challenges with peace and stability. A footbridge supports and stabilizes. How much more God's word? Guidance. A footbridge guides travelers across obstacles, and it's how our trusting God guides us through difficult times. Connection. A footbridge connects 2 points, symbolizing how trusting God connects us as believers to his peace and presence. Safety. A footbridge offers safety from the dangers below it, similar to how a steadfast mind on God offers protection from anxiety and fear. So the verse's promise of perfect peace is present when we maintain our trust and focus on God. Now I'm going to tell you that I am on a quest for self. And let me explain what that means. I have to be careful because it's not what it sounds like. There are times in people's lives when they can have what's called, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not a counselor, a disassociation. In other words, their lives and their psyches can be fragmented. And I don't want to say it's like multiple personality disorder, but it can be. In other words, I don't want you to hear that because that's not what it is in this case. But there are people whose lives are so traumatized that they actually split off of that place of trauma and they develop another personality, another being. And it's not that here, but here is what it is. The Lord told me one time that when we see ourselves as kids and when that small child in us has been wounded, sometimes as a child, it can be very difficult to know how to navigate. So we can try to run away from that. And we can't run away from ourselves, obviously, in the physical. So we try to find ways to escape, to be able to relieve the stress and relieve the pressure that we feel. And I know that as a normal part of exploration when we grow up, like little kids, they'll dress up in different clothes and they'll put makeup on and they'll play the part of an adult. And sometimes as teenagers, when we get into that place where we don't know who we are, we will invent who we want to be, or something we want to be like, or who we want to be like. And in that itself, in growing, is a normal part of growth. But sometimes when kids are hurt so bad and their psyche doesn't split off, they still come to a place where they're trying to, and we do try to invent ourselves. We put on masks, in other words, masks. Right now, the Lord has shown me this vision of being at a party. You know how they hold it and they wear the masks. We put on masks that we feel comfortable with, but we feel that we will be accepted by other people who see those masks. The funny thing is the more people we're around, it's still the same problem. Nobody ever really accepts you, not everyone, all the time. And we don't understand that as kids because presently, whatever group of people we're around, we are like, and he gave me this term on the way home, we like a chameleon. We change to fit into the environment that we're in. And we do that because we don't feel accepted as we are. So when we get hurt like that and we have trauma like that as kids, it's in essence a place where we leave ourselves behind. So when I was walking home today, and the Lord has done this before, he showed me a vision of my younger self as a child, and actually showed me playing in the yard and just scenarios, and showing me that that's where I left myself. So that space where I left myself there, fast forward to the person that I am today. God has done amazing work in my life and amazing healing, but there's still a split, a rift in my wholeness, because that child, some of those issues back then still have to be dealt with. They still have to be looked at, and they still have to be dealt with. And the Lord is helping me to revisit those places and those times. And he gave me this vision today, and this was the weirdest thing I had seen. I was actually in the spirit as me, myself, and I went to pick up that child, which was me back then. And I couldn't hold on to that child. The child would not let me hold on to her. And I was frustrated. I'm like, you are me and I am you. And why won't you let me hold on to you? And it was really strange, but it was also very healing, because I let it go then. And, you know, it's kind of like, have you ever held a child in your arms that doesn't want to be held? And they may have whatever reason. They may want to play. They may not want to sit still. They may see friends, or they may be angry with you. They may be frustrated. They may be tired. Whatever the reasons are, that child does not want to be held. And I was thinking today, and I may post it, Jason Upton's song, Run Baby Run. You know, we don't realize that, but we all do that with God. Until we come to that place where we surrender into his love and into his arms and into his care. We wrestle with him, and we won't sit on his lap, and we won't stay still. We don't want him to hold us. We just want to keep running. And I realized later on, when God took me back to that vision again today and back to that place, that there was a conversation I actually had to have with my younger self, to be able to give my younger self the freedom to want to be held and to be loved by me, by myself. And, you know, we talk about self-love in the world today, and it's not healthy. You know, it's healthy to learn to love ourselves, of course. God tells us to love him with all our soul, heart, mind, and strength, and to love others as we love ourselves. So self-love is healthy, but not to be the predominant love of our lives, because that just leads down to the road of narcissism and selfishness, where we leave God and others out of the mix, and we put ourselves first on the throne, and we don't belong there. That's God's place. And when we realize that we have to have times where we choose to put someone else before ourselves, and sometimes when we put ourselves before someone else, that's self-love. It's a healthy version of caring for ourselves, as we would another person, and as God wants us to do. So that's a good thing. But there are places in our lives where we have not loved ourselves. And I can look at myself as a child, or from that child vision as an adult, and say, hey, you left me here. So that's a conversation that I have to have, that small child to myself. Why did you leave me here? And of course, when we're young, we don't do things like that on purpose, but we do. We mentally escape and we become someone else, and we leave that real version, that true essence of ourselves behind, because we are putting on masks. And we have to go back to that place, that spot where we left ourselves, and earn that trust and give that part of ourselves freedom to be able to have conversations, and where we begin to mend the rift. I don't know how God does it, but he does what he wants. And all I know is this is an amazing journey that he has me on. It can be painful, it can be teary at times, and it can be wonderful and freeing. And, God is God, and he can do whatever he wants. And I know for myself, and even though I do have access to counseling and therapy, I know the Lord is doing a work in me right now that no one else can do, because I'm his vessel and I'm his child. And he is the one who lives in me and knows me better than anyone. So I trust myself completely to him, hopefully. There are times I fight against what he wants to do, but I trust him. And I know that this is an amazing work that he's doing right now. And that's the thing, coming back to this verse, Isaiah 26:3. Our minds are kept in perfect peace. And there are times, and I'm going to show you this. Let's say that you're out in a boat. We'll use that analogy. And the water is calm and the seas are fine and you're having a great time. All of a sudden, a storm kicks up. There's thunder, there's lightning, the sky is dark, it's threatening, the clouds are threatening, it's gray, and the waters start to be real choppy. And all of a sudden, your boat, and then it comes in all ferocious, the storm, and your boat is everywhere. And your mind, in that moment, in that situation, goes to, how can I save myself? That's what we think about, even in life storms. How can I save myself? What can I hold on to? What can I grab hold of? What can I tie myself to? How am I going to get through this? And our mind all of a sudden is gone off trusting in the Lord, because we trusted in him in that peaceful place. And now we're freaking out because everything is in complete chaos. We don't have control. We can't manipulate the situation. And it's kind of just we feel out of control. So our minds begin to think about all kinds of things, and they get off God. And pretty soon we got all this chaos going on in our mind and in our brains. And God is far away, or seems far away. And peace is gone, and anxiety and fear and uncertainties and what will happen, and all those thoughts come in, and we feel off balance. So when I sat down, I'm going to be honest with you, because even navigating through this journey that he has me on with him, thinking the thoughts that he's putting in my mind, looking up scriptures and feeling the feelings that I do, it's just like being in that boat. It starts off peaceful, and there can be moments when it feels real chaotic. And so I said to the Lord, actually before he gave me the rest of this, I said, just don't lose me. And I know he won't, but I talk to God like that. And don't let me lose myself. Just keep me. Keep me while you're doing this work. And that's when he gave me this verse. So he's just reassuring me, and I felt to come on and reassure you too, that no matter what you're facing right now, whether it's in a personal journey of healing and wholeness, whether you're in anxiety because of finances, you don't make enough money, and inflation is stupid. And you just don't make enough, and you're concerned about whether or not God's going to provide. He promised he would. So go back to his promises for provision, because they are for you, and they are for now in this season especially, but they're for all our lives. And I can tell you, as being a former homeless person, and God taught me about sparrows and how he takes care of them, he does. He will provide for you. He will. I have lived from the hand of God for the last 12 years of my life especially. And I can say all my life, but I can say that he's had me focused on him in that for 12 years. He's never not provided for me in the moment that I've needed it. I have asked him, and I've had to wait in faith and patience, but he's never too late. He always provides. And if you need a job, whatever you're struggling with right now, maybe it's a marriage relationship, maybe it's a relationship with a child, maybe whatever that maybe looks like, whatever your situation or circumstances, know that God wants you to keep your mind on him and on his promises, and he will keep you in perfect peace as you focus your mind on him. Don't look at this situation. I know it's daunting. Try not to. Remember that footbridge. God's promise is a footbridge from where you are to where he is in faith, and he's going to provide for you. And I asked him this today, and you can ask him anytime. God, just take my hand, God, and walk me through this. Just take my hand and walk me through this. And he will not fail you, ever. He promises he won't. And love never, ever fails. Have a great afternoon.